Hi and welcome to the walkthrough video for Virtuosity Drums, a free open source drum kit and KVRDC'21 entry by Versilian Studios and Karoryfer samples. The kit was recorded at Virtuosity Music in Boston in the Americas, and the drummer's name is Austin McMahon, but the sound is not Attitude Era at all. This is contemporary jazz drumming, which means a small kit, tuned high, undampened, and generally lightly hit, but with a huge variety of techniques. Here are all the snare articulations we sampled. And here they are with the snare wires turned off. The kicks, cymbals, and percussion are recorded with the usual round robin and velocity layer approach, but because in this style the snare and toms are used in a very expressive, non-repetitive way, we did a whole lot of dynamic layers without round robins. The snare center hits have 36 dynamic layers. You get 4 types of hits on the floor tom and 2 on the rack tom. Hi-hat has closed, pedal, open, half open, 3/4 open, and splashes. The cymbals are ride, which also has bell hits. A second flat ride uses ride and as a crash. And a crash without and with a sizzle chain. Basically, this is all the General MIDI cymbals except for China, and we use the splash key for one of the crash sounds. The percussion is the whole General MIDI spec list, except instead of maracas, we have another shaker. So yes, as the General MIDI spec requires, there is a key that goes moo. The kick doesn't have extra techniques sampled, but it is recorded with the snares on and off. C will give you the correct sound, and the B note will give you the kick with the snare off when the snares are actually on, and kick with the snares on when they are turned off. There are 6 volume faders for mic positions. A few of the percussion samples only have overheads, and the rest has close mic under the snare fader, overheads, mids, and room mics. Let's run through a simple drum loop with the default mic setup of kick, snare, and overheads. This is the mid mics by themselves, a warm sounding pair of modern active ribbons. The room mics are more distant but brighter. And finally, there is a very old school mic with plenty of noise and dirt if you want to sound like a 50s jazz record. Under the kick and snare mics there are bleed buttons, so you can basically keep those out of each other's mics and keep the tom and cymbals out of those mics too. This makes things sound less realistic but clearer, and here's the difference it makes on the toms. First normal, then with the bleed turned off on both mics. The kick is quite ringy and produces an audible C note. There is dampen control to simulate dampening. This helps this kit fit into non-jazz styles, for example hip-hop, where the ribbon and vintage mics come in handy. But that still doesn't sound quite like a 90s drum loop, because back in the day a lot of samples would be slowed down, and that can be simulated with the master tune control. For even less jazz-related styles, there is the Epic knob, which basically adds an extra copy of all the mics except kick and snare shifted an octave down. This even applies to most of the percussion, except for a few where it was obvious nonsense such as the whistle. And because this is open source, you can fiddle around and do even more with it. If you like it, tell a friend. If you like it and you don't have any friends, tell an enemy.